Hi, and welcome to the Fabians Cancer Podcast. Today I'll be talking to Fabian Bolin, and we're going to talk about his life, his story, and the War on Cancer app. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Kaya. Sorry. Really great to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you want to join and be in conversation with me. Would you like to introduce yourself, where you're from, and how old you are now?
Absolutely. So, my name is Fabian Bolin, as you yourself said. I am 32 years old, and I was born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden. And that's where I'm currently residing as well. And I was diagnosed with leukemia, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, so ALL, in July 2015, and I was 28 at the time.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. How did you find out you were sick?
It really brings me back. Sometimes it feels like looking at a different lifetime. I was living in London at the time, and I first came to London in 2012 to work in investment banking after a couple of years of studying business school. Did that for a few years, enjoyed it to some extent, but not as much as I would have needed in order to actually stay around in that industry. I didn't really feel that finance was giving me that sense of meaning and purpose. So I decided to resign, and I shifted careers completely into working in the film industry, so film and acting industry in London. And I was on my way to move or continue that career by moving over to the States and continue working in the film industry in the US. But in May 2015, I started feeling tired. So initially, I thought it was related to stress and a lot of hard work. And I mean, London life in general, I guess. And didn't really do anything about it. In the sense of going to the doctors or anything. I just figured I needed some rests, and I also had a flight to Stockholm about a month later to visit my parents. So, and on that during that month, I felt kind of my body started aching. This tiredness just grew into like an exhaustion, and I started sweating all over the body. And on the very day when I woke up to fly back to Stockholm, I woke up with a pain in my chest area. And that pain made it troublesome for me to breathe. It got me a little scared, actually. But I flew to Stockholm, and when I met my parents, I told them right away, like, look, I need to go to the A&E because something is wrong. I can't breathe. So I went to the A&E in Stockholm, and I got scanned. It turned out this pain was actually a tumor that had been growing around my solar plexus area. And 2 days later, I was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh, wow. Did you find out through a blood test?
No, well, it was basically, I'm not sure exactly what happened. I can't really remember, to be honest, because I was just in and around different hospitals. Like I was moved to another hospital. A couple of different doctors took blood tests and different things, and then they discovered it was leukemia.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I mean, yeah, it was crazy. I was put in. I still remember to this day. I still remember and often think about this moment when I got the diagnosis, because for me, blood cancer and cancer in general, but especially blood cancer, just meant imminent death, because I'd never really considered cancer more than I've only seen cancer from like cancer galas and promotion and from charities and stuff, and it's often quite a negative side of cancer you're getting exposed to. So I wasn't aware that 2 out of 3 survived cancer, and so I thought that I was going to die for a couple of seconds, and I remember that feeling to be quite harmonious in a way. I was feeling really calm, and it was a very kind of peaceful, accepting kind of feeling within me. And I said to myself, you know what? I mean, it's nothing else you can do right now. Just accept it. And I think looking back at it all, it was probably due to the fact that I wasn't living life in the right way before that. I was never really happy pursuing either investment banking or acting. I was doing it for the wrong reasons, and I was, I think, from a subconscious level, an unhappy person. So for me to get a death sentence was basically kind of almost what I wanted. It sounds very dark, but now looking back at it all, I think that's what I felt. But anyway, so I was pretty quickly told, because I was put in our clinical trial, that I was looking at a 60 to 70% chance of surviving. And I was like, that's amazing. That's a lot more than I expected. So I, I just said to myself, like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to put my mind in becoming one of those 70% or 60 to 70% that survives. And from that moment and onwards, I never really thought about death as a thing. I just assumed I would be one of the people that survived. But then the doctors told me, like, look, you're going to have to go through 900 days of chemo. And for me to hear that, to hear 2.5 years of chemo, that was more traumatizing than the fact that I had gotten cancer. Because it felt, for me, I was a diehard careerist, still am, but much less so now. I'm much more balanced nowadays, thank God. But I remember feeling that my life was ruined. Everything that I'd worked for was gone, and I could no longer see a clear path for myself. So and that got me so sad. And I remember I really needed answers quick. So I had a ton of questions that I wanted answers to from the healthcare, but they were not so much around the specifics or the practicalities around a cancer treatment. They were about life with cancer. So my first question was, well, what's going to happen with my career? Like, will I be able to work? What happens when you have cancer? What does life look like? Started asking these questions, and also asked questions around, for instance, I mean, what can I eat? Are there ways that I can, because I was determined to try and live my life to the fullest. So I wanted to understand what type of diet is the best for me, and can I exercise? Is that helpful? And things like that. And when asking these questions to the healthcare, I first got in touch with their inability to really address the human needs behind the patient needs. So I was met with a willingness to talk to me about these topics. And sometimes when they gave me answers, they were frankly belittling. For instance, they told me, well, Fabian, eat whatever makes you happy. I mean, to hear something like that when you're in a situation, so it's quite a desperate situation, I would say, felt belittling. And honestly, you don't even say that to a healthy person. So why do you say that to someone who's been diagnosed with cancer? No one should eat whatever makes them happy, because then I would just drink vodka and eat ice cream. Come on, man. So I mean, for me, I just felt that I wasn't being taken seriously. So I realized that I'm going to need to get my answers from elsewhere, and my strategy was social media. And I wrote a post on Facebook where I basically explained the situation, and I asked if people could help me find someone in a similar situation. Now, this post got shared 13,000 times over the course of 24 hours. And a lot of people talk about being diagnosed as a life-changing experience, which it was, of course. But for me, what happened after this post was even more life-changing for me. So literally thousands and thousands of people from all over the world sent their love and support back to me. Remember, I can almost touch upon the amount of energy that was being directed towards me in that moment. It felt almost religious in a sense. And loads of personal stories started pouring in, not just from strangers, but from close friends as well, who opened up about their experiences going through cancer for the first time. But what I noticed above all was gratefulness. So basically, everyone started with saying, thank you for sharing. I mean, I'm going through what you're going through, and this is really helping. Keep sharing, keep doing what you're doing. And that led me to experience for the first time in my life altruistic happiness. Happiness generating from knowing that you're helping others. So, and that was a whole new feeling for me. So I was sitting there in a hospital gown at Stockholm Hospital. I felt this wave of happiness within myself, which led me to make the decision that, okay, I'm feeling really good about sharing this first post, and people are obviously being helped by it. So I'm going to share my entire journey through cancer in a blog, and I named the blog Fabian Bolin's War on Cancer. And this blog became a savior for me from a mental health point of view. And it really made me understand the power of storytelling. And now, I mean, looking back at it all, and now, because we founded a company called War on Cancer out of it, and we're now working with cancer and mental health. Of course, we have done a lot of investigation into the mental health problems for cancer patients, why, what happens when you get diagnosed, and what we've learned is that cancer inflicts a trauma. I mean, every cancer patient is traumatized to one extent or the other, right? And if you're traumatized, then there's a risk that you develop either PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, or clinical depression. So we looked at some research pointing out that 22% of cancer patients develop full PTSD within the first 6 months. And 20% of cancer patients develop full clinical depression within the first year, I think, which is quite a lot. So it's 40% of cancer patients are actually suffering like intensely from one or the other mental illness. And then, of course, for everybody else has fragments of post-traumatic stress, levels of it. So it's becoming evidently clear now that, because we've also, of course, looked into coping mechanisms for trauma, and it's becoming clear to us that what I was doing when I was writing my blog was actually activating a lot of coping mechanisms for dealing with a trauma. So firstly, and the first coping mechanism, which you see everywhere, is expressive writing. To actually share and talk and write about what you're going through is deeply helpful for your mental health. So, and that's what I felt. I mean, it became a therapeutic tool for me. So I wrote every day. I shared openly and transparently about my emotions and my thoughts and my feelings. And this blog became an outlet for me, really. And without understanding it, I was processing in real time what I was going through. Secondly, and another coping mechanism is social support. So what you want is to have the people around you to actually understand what you're going through. And because I shared my blog openly, and it was followed by most of my close friends, they knew exactly what was going on, and they also understood how they needed to behave in order to actually be of support to me. So they figured out right away that, okay, we can't keep pitying Fabian and just not talking to him like the person he is. So I think what I noticed was whenever someone called me up or met me on the street, instead of them saying the usual way you approach a patient, which is like, "Hi, Kaya. Oh my God, how are you? I can only imagine." The very angle, a lot of pitying. I mean, it's coming from a good place, but it becomes very overwhelming for us patients. But because they read the blog, they were like, "Do you want to go for a beer? Because I know your results are good." And to hear something like that, I mean, that became that was essential for me, right? Because it made me understand that, right, I'm still Fabian. I'm not cancer. I'm just Fabian who happened to be diagnosed with cancer. And lastly, a third reason why this blog was so good for dealing with trauma was This feeling of, it's called behavioral activation. It's basically this feeling of helping others. It provided me with a sense of meaning and purpose. So this blog peaked at around 200,000 monthly readers. Yeah, and I can honestly say that I've never in my life felt happier. I've never in my life felt a bigger sense of purpose and meaning than when I was doing this. So it even led to the point where I started feeling grateful towards being diagnosed. I felt thankful for being diagnosed, and there's also a term for this when it comes to mental health and psychology, and it's called post-traumatic growth. It's something that happens to some patients. For some patients, it happens naturally. For others, can work their way towards feeling this kind of post-traumatic growth. And its essence, it's this feeling of being closer to yourself, more present, happier. You feel a bit larger sense of meaning, and you increase your spiritual side, or you have a heightened spiritual side. And I experienced all of those things from writing this blog. So around here, I started thinking that what if we can make other people feel this way? I mean, this is it feels like the opposite of what a lot of other patients feel. I'm actually feeling thankful towards being diagnosed. What if we can build a product that replicates what I am experiencing here? What if we can build an app which allows other people to share their stories, to feel this sense of meaning and purpose and this social support and connection in a larger environment? And that then became the start of building War on Cancer, the app. Because I wanted other people to be able to feel and experience what I was feeling. Because I felt that if we do this the right way, if we build a really powerful tool and scale it out on a global level, we can radically improve the mental health situation for everyone affected by cancer, and perhaps even solve the mental health problem for cancer once and for all.
Can you talk a little bit more about how the app came about and what is the goal for the app?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it would be, of course, great to actually showcase it to you on a screen. But in essence, so War on Cancer is it's a social media app for everyone affected by cancer. So by that, we mean patients, survivors, and loved ones. On the app, you as a member can either share your story. You can share your story through pictures, through text, in a feed format where you can follow others. So in essence, a part of it looks like just Instagram, right? It looks like Instagram for cancer. But of course, it's a niche social network for cancer. So you can search and find people based on the same relation to cancer, same form of cancer. Within a couple of releases, you'll be able to search for people in the same country, age, gender, which stage they are in the cancer treatment, and so on and so forth, right? To really build a tool that helps you as a member to find someone in a similar situation that you want to connect with. Of course, if you don't know what you're looking for, searching for, we have a tool that it's called Discover, where we automatically match you based on where you live and what age you are and which relation to cancer you have. The app is live right now, and it's live on both the App Store and on Playstore. So we launched it on Playstore just in October, so it's relatively new. By then, we had some around 1,000 users, and it's now grown organically to have just over 5,000 or 6,000 users, which is amazing. It's from 20 different countries. So it's really picking up in speed, and it just goes to show that something like this should exist, right? There's so many people affected by cancer. There's 47 million people in treatment. Each year, 22 million people get diagnosed. So there's a lot of people going through cancer. And we want to be there for them. We want to build the tool that actually becomes this help that really increases mental health for those affected. And
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, when I was sick, there wasn't anything like that. There wasn't any groups in the hospital for my parents, for my sister and stuff. So there wasn't really anything like this, of course. So it's really incredible that you developed this app and that it's really going to improve people their life. Even me as a survivor, I get on the app and I learn new things from people, get to know new people, get to know their stories and stuff. And it's really inspiring as well to learn what other people are going through or have been dealing with. And it's so good that, other people are sharing this with each other. So thank you so much for this.
I'm so I'm so happy you say that. And I mean, it's still early days for us. What's really important for us is to learn from our users what they want. So we're always looking for feedback. We're always looking to understand what is missing on the app, what is not working, what could be improved upon, and of course also what do you like with the app. So we're really focused on developing this tool together with our users.
Yeah, and that's really amazing. Do you have more goals regarding the app or regarding cancer?
I mean, for the app, so what we're hoping to do, and so what we've learned through years of building War on Cancer is that because of the fact that we are uniting patients on a global level on one platform, we can also provide the voice of those patients so that we can help healthcare improve. So there's something we've learned from. So since we started building War on Cancer, we started to get invited to a lot of these like healthcare conferences where they talk about the future of healthcare and cancer care and these type of things. And what's evident is that even though everybody talks about actually providing patient-centric care, as in care which is based around the patient's needs, it's not very few healthcare systems today actually have figured out how to do this, because at the end of the day, I mean, in order to really understand patient needs, you need to be able to ask them, and the patient needs to be able to tell their needs in real time. So what we're hoping to do with the app is to actually really bridge the gap between patients and healthcare so that healthcare can improve their treatment processes to make sure that they really tailor the care and the care and the treatment around the patient needs. So in the app, within 6 months, we will allow our members, if they want to, of course, to actually answer targeted surveys where they can talk about their needs within the healthcare, perceived quality of care, how they feel, what they think is their quality of life, and these type of things. So what we're hoping to do is, together with our patients, to really increase the overall understanding of what life with cancer is, and also what it means to go through cancer.
Oh, that's really good. Because a lot of hospitals or people from the medical industry are always trying to figure out how to improve what they're dealing with regarding patients and treatment, but obviously they can't really do it because they're not, the patients. Even though a doctor could say, well, this could help or that, maybe that wouldn't really help regarding for patients because, like mentally, because they haven't dealt with it.
Yeah, that's what we're right now we're in talks with, so we're really in talk with several healthcare systems, and we're actually in the process of we're talking with the NHS right now, which is the British healthcare system. And so we're moving forward we're in the process of becoming onboarded into the NHS verified apps library. And what that is basically the internal apps library that NHS uses. So in essence, it means that within a couple of months, once we're onboarded, doctors around the UK are allowed or can freely just suggest for members or for their patients to go on War on Cancer. And that's a first step in actually working together with the healthcare systems. Because once we know, I mean, if we have, let's say, 6,000 or 10,000 patients from the UK, for instance, or another country in Europe, we can then go to these healthcare systems and say, hey, are you interested in what, hey, hospital number 3 or 340, are you interested in what 45 of your patients are thinking about your care? Hopefully they'll say yes. That's the way it should be, right? And then they can start to understand, work together with us, and we then improve the overall cancer care, which is really what is needed. So that's the overall goal for myself when it comes to cancer and war on cancer.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and you said that war on cancer is in about 20 countries right now. Is it globally accessible?
It's global. So, I mean, right now, the only thing that's stopping us from becoming like totally global is language, right? It's only right now in Swedish because we're from Sweden, and English. So, once we have managed to secure funding and we get more developers on board, we can really start translating the app, making sure that more and more people it can come on board and actually understand. I mean, translating an app is not that hard, really. It just becomes, I mean, there's an extra for every update you do, you need to update every language. So it's a bit of I mean, extra work, really. But we're gonna have it translated into every language, like every language in the world eventually.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's really going to help a lot of people, especially people who are not really speaking English as well. So, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and also all languages that people are writing in can be translated. So it's already the whole Google Translate app is already in there, so you can translate every story already, which is a great start.
Yeah, so if I see a story in Swedish, I can translate it to English.
And I don't know, after to your own language, you can translate it feels whatever language you have on the phone, translates to that language.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I have my phone in English, so that's why it translates to the English language. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast and talking about your life and the War on Cancer app.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, if you want to join the app, which you should, because it's really helpful to yourself and other people, then you can download the app on.
Waroncancer.com. Either waroncancer.com or you can go to App Store or Play Store. And it's, of course, totally free to use and all of that. So we welcome everybody that has a connection to cancer to come together with us and let's form this community and really build something magnificent together.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaya. All right. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening. You can also follow War on Cancer on social media, which is at War on Cancer. You can also follow Fabian on social media, which is at Fabian Bolin. Thank you for listening. If you want to listen to more podcast episodes, they're available on YouTube and Spotify by searching the Fabulous Cancer Podcast. If you want to join the podcast for an episode, go to instagram.com/the Fabulous Cancer Podcast. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next podcast episode.